Oh my God, how cool is that, hey? Dude, I've never had geysers before. You guys, welcome to the Hunger for Laughs Comedy Tour. Thank you guys so much for coming out here this evening. My name is Alex Mackenzie. I will be your host. Thank you.
This tour is kind of crazy because I never do tours like this. I normally just do my shows. I go out and I headline, I might get some openers. So I'm never touring with my friends. And this is like crazy. I'm splitting time with some of the best comics that we have. It's crazy that we're all doing this even time. It's no pressure. Everyone's a killer. And I didn't even know Alex. I've known Ivan and Simon for a long time. They're my best friends in comedy. And then Alex just hits me up because he'd worked with those guys, and I guess they mentioned me. Anyways, I'm like, who is this guy that's taking on a crazy tour like this? So instantly I was like, he's piqued my interest. He's a comic and a producer. Like, self-producing people are really, that's my vibe. I love that. And he's not afraid of that. So, but man, I didn't know it was gonna be like this scale. You know, we're going all over, we're selling out, we're in a damn arena. So yeah, I didn't know Alex at all, but like after 5 weeks in this tour, lifelong friends.
It's always exciting for me to get to perform in an environment that I'm not generally used to, or something new. It's cool to be part of a variety show too. To me, that feels like kind of old showbiz, like vaudeville. We got a foot archer, we got a magician, you got me, you got Simon. We're very different comedians, and so I think it's really cool to be a part of like a buffet, you know? Who doesn't love a buffet? There's something for everybody. Everybody's full at the end. It's a real, just kind of different experience, I think. And so I'm always trying to put myself into as many different scenarios as I can to excel and perform comedy, and I feel like that's beneficial. That's my selfish reason, but then also to get to help Alex, to get to perform with my friends is, again, very exciting.
When I first left Prince George to do stand-up comedy, I produced a show called The Wish Me Luck Show, and I rented a theater, and it was me heading out on the road, and I was like, hey guys, wish me luck, I'm heading out to try to become a professional comedian in the RV. And you know, I had a very good job. You know, I worked as a power engineer and an instrument mechanic. And so my mother, when I did that, was like, you have to give some of this money back to the community, because you have, like, you know, you don't really need this money from the comedy thing. And she was like, you got to give some money back to the community. So from the show, we decided to partner with the local hospice, and we gave partial proceeds from the event to them. And that's where the charity thing started. That wasn't Hunger for Laughs, but that's where the charity piece of my stand-up, because a majority of my stand-up, whether it's Hunger for Laughs or not, I do donate to local charities when the shows go well. You know, as long as we turn a profit, I always feel it's good to give back to the community in which I, you know, perform in or do business in. And so then from there, I was on this actual boat, not the same one, but they had another boat, and we were on Salt Spring Island, and there were these people pulled in just a giant mega yacht. And they walked off with these two cool dogs. And I remember talking, I don't know how it came about. I was walking on the dock the same time as the lady. And I just asked, hey, what do you do? All this type of stuff. And she actually ran charity events for the BCS-BCA. And that's like, she's got her dogs. And she's like, this is what I do. I do these fundraisers. And I was like, dude, I do comedy. Like, we could do like a comedy fund. And she was like, that, like she actually started saying like, you should do a comedy fundraiser and do like something like, you know, give like, for animals. I was like, well, I want to do this Hunger for Laughs thing and for food banks, and it kind of just grew from there. It was kind of like, oh, I should do that. And then the first show we ever produced was in 2019 in Revelstoke. And I chose Revelstoke because I remember they were the only place that was RV friendly. Like when I was touring around in my RV, everywhere is like, no RVs here. Like every sign, just no RV parking, get them out of here. Revelstoke was the one place that was like, they have RV only parking. They're like, you're in an RV, this is your spot. And I saw the Luna Festival there. It was just, it's a very cute little community, and they seemed very much about community in Revelstoke. They all came out to really support the community. It was very grassroots. And so I had an idea, so I phoned the local theater, and I'd never rented one. I didn't even know, well, I rented the Prince George one actually, I guess. So I didn't really even know how it would work outside of there, so I just phoned them. And I was like, hey, I want to do a show, like how much does it cost to rent this place? And then we ended up renting the place, and I produced a show. So yeah, we rented there. And then I phoned the local food bank and said, hey, I'm this comedian from here and I want to do a comedy show and I would love to give you guys partial proceeds. So they're like, sure, send us a contract on what you're going to give us and then we'll approve it and go from there and you can put our logos on the stuff. So I did that. And then I went to the radio station and I bought radio advertising and said, hey, I'm looking to produce a comedy show. It's for the Revelstoke Food Bank. And then can you give us a deal on some advertising? So then we bought some advertising and then they gave a really good deal. Give us like a couple $1,000s for like $500. Then I went to Save on Foods and I said, hey, Save on Foods, we're doing this. Would you guys be interested in sponsoring this event? And we'll give you all the like title presenter and you'll get the radio advertising. And Save on Foods was on board. They're like, this sounds like a great thing that we'd love to be a part of. And so then, went back to the theater, told them everything we have sorted. And that was the very first one ever. So it was very exciting. It was me, Simon King, and Kate Belton out of Kelowna. And we did the show, and it was great. Yeah, so basically, 2020 and 2021, we had a little thing happen, so we weren't able to really produce live stand-up comedy events. During that time, I actually produced some Zoom events, so we were doing that, and we actually were giving 10% of the proceeds from the Zoom events to Food Banks Canada. So that was, that kind of just continued on the food bank path. And then 2022, coming out of the Panny D, I remember, because what happened, that's what it was. We were producing these Zoom events, and because nobody was working, I was able to get access to a lot of really talented acts because they were just sitting at home. And I was like, hey man, I'm doing like these Zoom events. Would you be interested in performing? And I remember that's where I talked to Ivan, and Ivan's like, yes, I would love to come online and tell some jokes. So I got Ivan, and then I remember I met Chris Turner 2020 in Australia. He was like a freestyle rapper. He's a comedian and a freestyle rapper. And when I watched his act in Australia, I was like, that was some of the most impressive stuff I've ever seen in my life. And so then I got him on the Zoom event to do a freestyle rap on the Zoom. And then I remember as we were coming out of the pandemic, I was like, man, imagine if we could do this, but live. If I could get all these acts together. And so I also met Arissa Kelly back in 2020 at the event, and that was the craziest circus act I've ever seen. Like, I didn't know, so she shoots a flaming bow and arrow with her feet. And I had never seen anything like that. And when you don't know that's happening, it's really crazy. Like, you see the regular circus people come out, and then when she came out and she shot that bow, I was blown away. And I actually stuck around after the show to meet her. I was like, I gotta meet this person. And then coming 2022, starting to put the show together, I was like, Ivan, would you be interested in doing a show? And he's like, yeah, man, I'm in. And then I phoned Chris and was like, hey, Chris, I've got Ivan and I are doing this show. Would you be interested? And Chris was like, yeah, man, I'd love to work with you and Ivan. And then I phoned Arissa and I was like, hey, would you be? And she's like, I would love to be a part of a comedy tour. I've never done that before. And then I phoned Simon because he's my old faithful, the guy I started with. And we put a show together in March of 2022. It was basically a proof of concept show of me trying to figure out, I'm like, is this feasible? Would this work? And we got very, very lucky with the timing in the sense that it was probably March 20th of 2022. Our show was like the first event that you didn't have to have masks. So they just lifted all the policies like the week before the show. And so then we did 2 shows. They were very successful. People loved them. And it showed that, this could work. So then immediately we're like, okay, we need to scale this. So we were like, this fall, let's do 6 shows. So then what I had to do, I actually had to go to the bank and a bunch of people and try and find funding for this. And that's kind of the proof of concept showed like, hey, look, I got this idea. I don't have any money to do this, but I have this idea to put it together. And so then I just started picking some cities. And our first year, 2022, it's not our first year, but it was our first year with all of these acts because 2019 was first. But what did we do? We did Kamloops, Kelowna, Vancouver, Prince George, Grand Prairie, Red Deer. That's 6, that's 7. That's right, eh? Right? Prince George, Vancouver, Grand Prairie, Red Deer, Kamloops, Kelowna. Yeah, so we did those 6 locations. And it kind of expanded. We ended up doing not just food banks. We ended up, because that was the thing also, I was like, oh, I want to help more people than just the food banks. There's so many great organizations, especially coming out of the pandemic, that are all looking for funding. So then it was, what did we do? We did animal shelters. We left it up to the communities. So we made a post and we did a boosted ad asking people, name your favorite nonprofit. And whoever got the most votes, we just called them up and said, hey, would you be interested in being the beneficiary of this event? And everyone was very excited. So that was the first 2020, that was 2022. And then 2023, we scaled up and we did 8 shows. So the cities, is there any connection to the cities that we choose? I would say yes, there is, but it is also relative to venues and population size as well. So we're kind of looking, it kind of started around like the 80,000 mark, where it's like it's big enough, I think, to support the size of the show that we want, but it's not too big that, like, it's really hard going into the large markets because you're competing with Elton John will show up and you're like, how, you're going to come see us or Elton, you know? So that's pretty tricky, but there is a ton of, like, a lot of, initially, it's a lot of the places that really helped me when I was first starting out. You know, obviously Prince George, my hometown, that is like, I always say Prince George is the heartbeat on this dream of mine, man. Like, those guys, they come out and they support me, and it's like, yeah, I really, really want to give back to that community, man. I hope that I'm able to repay them for everything they've done for me. And then, like, Kamloops was a very big one, because that's like the closest stop from Prince George, basically, of the same size. And I spent a lot of time there in my RV, and the people there have always been so good to me. I've done shows there for years now. That was actually the first road gig I ever did, was back in like 2017, maybe 2016. And it was Kamloops. It's the Dirty Jersey. It was like a bowling alley. I got to go down there and do 5 minutes, and it was great. I loved it. And then all through the Okanagan, I spent a ton of time there. And Grand Prairie is basically like, they say that GP is the PG, or no, PG is the GP of BC. So Grand Prairie is basically Alberta, Prince George. So I feel that I have some very good friends who live up there. And Red Deer was the one I don't have much connection with, but they were close to Grand Prairie. They were a good size. And people are the biggest part of the show, man. Like, they are, it's funny because the audience is such a big integral piece of it. And Red Deer, everywhere you go, the people they've been so good, man. I don't know if it's like a Canadian thing. I don't know what it is. Like, where it's just, but you feel that connection in all of these shows. Like Duncan, I'd never been to Duncan before. We went there this year. It was bananas. Like, it was just love and happiness, and you could feel it, man. It was palatable. And I was just so happy, and you're like, yeah, I don't know. It's pretty cool. 2023, we're looking at putting it all together. You know, we're trying to figure out the roster. We've added a few dates. So we added, I believe this year we added Duncan and where else? And Vernon. Duncan and Vernon we added to the tour, and then we're trying to get the roster in line now. And the roster, basically how it started was offering everyone who was on the tour the first year, you know, trying to get them all back again. But it is hard. A lot of these acts too, like, their careers are like, all of them are just on a rocket ship to success right now. So, you know, not everyone's availability is there. And a lot of the time they're like, oh, I could maybe do 2 of the shows, but for booking sake and probably, I don't know, the tour wise of marketing the tour, it's much nicer to have people that can be there for the whole time. And so what ended up happening was Chris Turner wasn't able to make it, the rapper, and because of his wife's success. She's an author, and she published a very, very successful book this year, and they just had a kid, so he actually had to stay home and, you know, do dad duty while his wife was out doing a book tour. And so then I remember asking, I was like just trying to figure out who could fill that. Because the Hungry for Laughs tour as well, we try to do a bit of a variety act. So, I mean, comedy is always the staple, the main focus, but it was nice to have like a circus act. We wanted to add, you know, we had like the freestyle rapping, and I was like, what could we do to keep the variety of the show going rather than just booking another comedian? And talking to Simon, talking to Ivan, they're like, you got to meet this guy, Wes Barker. they're like, Wes, I think would be a perfect fit. You know, he's friends with these guys. He's very, very talented, and I think he fills that role perfectly.
The way I describe this, like Ivan funny, Simon yelly, Wes is it's me. I can't talk myself, and then Arissa shoots things. It makes sense. So we've been starting all these shows the same way. It goes Alex. He's there. He's warming up. He's the happiness cheerleader. He says to himself.
I want you to just look at whoever it was here who arranged these tickets for you. Give him a little squeeze, would ya?
He's the opening act. He takes the worst spot. On his tour, he takes the worst, hardest position, gets everybody warmed up, and he's good at it. It's half hosting, half doing your actual material, hard gig, killing it. Then we go to Ivan. He's maybe the best comic Canada's put out in, I don't even know how long. He's literally one of the best comics working. And he's up next, so obviously he kills, just proper stand-up comedy. Then I get to go on. You've never gone on to a happier crowd. They've already got their money's worth. I have the easiest job on this whole damn tour. So I go out there, I do my thing, whatever. Hey, boo, thank you, good night, whatever. And intermission, bring out, Alex, warm him back up. Simon goes out there. Now, Simon puts it in another gear. Simon goes like I can't even describe Simon King's comedy. It's literally so in your face. You have to watch the same set 3 times, and every time you're hearing different jokes because he talks so fast you missed it all the first time. So now they get that energy back up after intermission. That's not easy. They're back in the top, boom. Then Arissa comes out. All they've seen is comedy, magic trick comedy, whatever. Arissa comes out. This is a damn good show.
You know, it didn't take long. One Google search, look up Wes Barker, see him Penn and Teller fool us. You see what he's doing, and very, very funny. Like it was it's not just magic, not the fancy. He's a stunt magician. We wanted the show to be so unique and so broad, like that it appeals to everyone. Like there will be something in this show for everybody. The whole idea of the tour is love and connection. We're just trying to be like, hey man, we're trying to bring people together through love and belonging and laughter. So 2023, huge success. Like just seeing the growth from 2022 to 2023, it couldn't have been, it went as good as or better than I ever could have hoped. You know, like we had a couple sellout venues, a lot of people are coming out. We're able to raise some good money for these charities and give back to the communities. And it just felt, because 2022 was tough. It was hard. We're in half-empty venues, not a lot of people coming out. You're like, oh man, I don't know if it's feasible, but I do feel all the shows went really good, like that we're there, like that as far as the performance, but financially it was not a good turnout. It was very, very difficult. And so that was very hard to see and heartbreaking. But then it's just, I think that resilience of more or less the business side where it's like failure, like, what's the entrepreneur saying? They say, you want to be wrong as quick as possible. So you realize the things we did wrong there, that we could change and come back. And I think a lot is just brand recognition. Like everyone who came to the show, they loved it. So then 2023 came and it just grew 2x. Like it was like double, if not more, people coming out. And yeah, I hope to continue that into 2024. I'm very hopeful. So now we've gone, first year we did 6 shows, second year we did 8 shows. Now this third year, I guess it's kind of the fourth year. I guess first year we did 2, and then it went from 2, then it went to 6, and then went to 8. Now this year we're doing 10, so we're adding 2 more shows. Yeah, and we're going to be with the lineup. So then we're going to be alternating. We're going to be bringing back some acts from last year, and then we're going to be introducing some new acts to keep it fresh for people who've come from the beginning. And the idea is basically to just increase venue size is overall. So we did our first arena in 2023, which was phenomenal. Like to see the amount of work of like the people that put that together, like it's a hockey rink, dude. So they're covering the ice, they're taking the glass out, there's forklifts building a stage. Like there's a team of 30 or 40 production people building this thing for you to go and tell your jokes. It's really cool feeling, man. Like I can't believe, how many people are there like helping you make your dream come true. And it's like, I don't know, because it's really easy to get bitter a lot of the time about stuff and you feel like everyone's against you just in life or things. But to see you like, no man, like everyone wants to see you succeed. They want to see this work and they're willing to help. Like people are willing to do so much for you. And it's just, especially coming from the start where you're like, dude, I remember taping a flashlight onto a pole and that was my spotlight. And then to have a forklift dropping off equipment and riggers hanging from the ceiling to put all this together. And that really, and the arena was a huge success. It was very, very scary. You're like, it's too big, it's too many people, you can't scale. Like, who do you think you are? The last guy to perform in that arena was literally Jimmy Carr. And now you think you're gonna come in here and do this? And that's the dream. Now you're like, how do we do arenas in every city? Can we scale up to arenas in all of the cities? And you know, and then it's like now the margins go up, the amount you can raise for charity goes up, you know, opportunities for sponsorships. More people want to get involved when they see it. The community really comes together. And it is that, like, that's the dream, is like, and at a time right now where like the world, it can seem very, very divided. Like we can seem, there's so many issues out there and opinions and people separated. I believe that comedy, from my bottom of my heart, I believe that comedy is the answer, dude. Like when you're in those rooms with hundreds or thousands of people from your community, like sharing a laugh, you realize, dude, like we're all one. And it's like when you can get a room full of people to all feel the same way, it's very, very powerful, dude. And I think that's the big dream, dude, is, you know, healing the world with comedy, as Bo Burnham says. So it's pretty cool. So 2024, adding more dates, new lineup, you know, and then hopefully it just continues to grow from there.